Listening and analyzing your e-reputation are becoming key in the digital marketing landscape. Please welcome Daina Middleton, Head of Global Business Marketing at Twitter.
Thank you. Bonjour. How are you today? Good. All right, so I'm going to talk about participation, which means I'm probably going to ask you to participate. So I'm going to test how well your coffee is actually working this morning. Okay, so we all know that participation is happening everywhere in the world today. So on Twitter specifically, that means every day, every hour, and every moment. There are actually things happening. People are actually interacting. And if we dive deeper into these, we can look at like this moment, which was here earlier this year. This is actually a very interesting vote in Ireland where people from throughout the world rallied together around the hashtag yes. And amazing things happened as people flew home and actually voted and expressed their pride on becoming the first country to actually approve gay marriage. So if we actually think about participation and we dive deeper, just like the Ireland example, into each of these moments is a story. So recently, in the last several weeks, we saw Germany open their borders to the Syrian refugees on Twitter. If you look in the Middle East, we had a young man from India whose sister flew there for a job interview, and she disappeared. She became captured by human traffickers. And her brother reached out to a government official and got support, and they found her. Or you go to Colombia, where a woman actually had an issue with a bank and she couldn't get it resolved. So she reached out to people, and through that, they helped her resolve. The bank actually resolved her problem. Or if you look at a chief in Africa who's actually managing his entire village and getting his people to participate with him using Twitter. So for marketers, this is a big notion. This whole notion of participation is key. So I'm old enough to have been around a long time as a marketer, over 20 years. And in the beginning of my career, marketing was about persuasion. It was about how do I get people to think about my product or service differently? How do I find that big emotional idea that will change their mind? And it was late in my career at Hewlett-Packard. I spent 16 years at HP. I was working on a beautiful campaign, and it was a campaign about self-expression, a global campaign for the printing and imaging group. And this was in 2007. So think about 2007. We were all carrying a mobile phone, but it probably wasn't a smartphone. Twitter, Facebook were really young. We weren't thinking about them for marketing yet. But we were creating online assets, and we were working with great stars like Gwen Stefani, who brought her designs, and with a combination of her designs as well as our customers' designs, we were allowing them to create something unique, something self-expressed online. And the tagline for the campaign was, "What do you have to say?" But the aha moment for me was, we really didn't care what people had to say. We didn't want to hear back from them. And for the first time in history, people could actually respond and tell us what they had to say. And this was a huge aha moment for me. It caused me to actually leave HP and do some exploring, because I thought, wow, persuasion is no longer enough. I have to learn the science of participation now. And actually, there is a science around participation. So to illustrate the power of participation, I want to go back just a little bit further. and hopefully get your participation. So we're going to go back first to 1982. How many of you are old enough to have seen Star Wars in the theater? Yes, good. There's a few of us old enough. In 1982, actually, there were 2 Star Wars films out about this time. The first one launched in 1989. And it was a classic one-way communication experience, right? You're sitting in a theater just like you are today. You're watching Star Wars on the screen. But Star Wars made a lot of money during that time frame. The ticket price in the US was $1.65. And so adjusted for inflation, Star Wars is still the 3rd highest grossing film of all time. But now let's look at something else that happened in 1982. Along came a little game called Space Invaders. How many of you ever played Space Invaders? Yes, yay. Amazing. Look at the gross revenue from Space Invaders. In the US, a ticket price, or the cost to play, for Space Invaders was 25 cents. That's a lot of quarters. So what was it about Space Invaders that drove 3 times the revenue of Star Wars in the same time frame? It was that the game is considered to be the first game to have the secret sauce of participation. And what did that mean? It meant that for the first time, people who played Space Invaders could discover things. They became competent. They were given little tips along the way to help them become more competent about the game. They were empowered in ways never before. They could actually pick up a destructible barrier and hold it in front of their body to protect themselves in the game. And finally, for the first time, they actually could connect with other players, not in the way that we think about it today, certainly, but it was a simple tactic. You could save your score. That's it. So what happened? You would leave, you would play, you would go away, you'd have to come back to that place where the game console was, and you would race back to see, did someone beat my score? Right? You didn't know who the other person was. You couldn't pick them out of a crowd, but you had that human connection. Space Invaders had the secret formula. So let's fast forward to today to Minecraft. How many of you play Minecraft or know Minecraft? What a weird game, right? It's like blurry Legos. But amazingly built for participation from the ground up. It engages people every second, every moment, allowing people to discover, allowing them empowerment, allowing them to connect. So I've already alluded to somewhat of the formula, and this is a formula that I created a couple of years ago for marketers who really want to think about creating environments that entice participation. So as I mentioned, think about Discover being about the fact that we're human. We love to continually learn. And we want to help people become more competent about our product and service. How do we reward that skill set? How do we reward them from becoming experts? Empowerment's more difficult. What it means is we want people to actually become a part of our marketing. That's a little scarier, but important. If you want people to take part, then you need to give them a role. And lastly, it's about connection. And connection is about building the community, not just a connection between the brand and the participant, but between participants. How do you build a community? And if you have not one, not two, but all 3 of these variables, then you can actually create an environment that inspires participation. And since actions are the manifestation of participation, then we're all rewarded on actions today. So our campaigns will have better performance. So let's look at how a few brands are using this. So if you look at the Accor brand, great French brand, who decided to get their audience to participate by asking one question. And that question will be around the Tour de France. Will it be the left pedal or the right pedal that crosses the finish line first? Very simple question with 10,000 responses. That's participation. Or we look at this moment that's become a very historic moment. This is just the activity on Twitter, almost 2 years ago now, when Ellen broke Twitter for a few minutes. But what's astounding about this is not what happened on Twitter, but what happened off Twitter. Offline in magazines and newspapers, on radio and television. So let's measure this participation. We got Kantar to work with us. We know that there were 3.4 million retweets on our platform. We know that the Oscars has a huge global leverage platform. But then what happened beyond that is astounding. So 60% of the world's population participated in this moment in some way, which is remarkable. So any guesses on what this is, this moment? Obviously, it's a UK map, if it's hard to see. Any ideas? No? Could be. Could be. All good answers. It's actually Tuesday morning. It's people commuting on Tuesday morning, which is kind of amazing. And because Twitter's, you can use the natural language and really find out what's going on. You hear people talking about the train, they're late. And if you really want to dial into commuters and see what they're talking about, they're annoyed, it's packed. And if they want just one thing to happen, they want other commuters to disappear. So if you look at what Nokia did, which is great, they created a campaign where the commuters just disappear. Here's one more. So in this age, data can be your friend when you want to inspire participation. So using tools like Synthesio to actually pull global data and understand what's happening every moment in every country can be a huge benefit for marketers. In this case, we have the Volkswagen crisis just recently. So 2 ideas I want to leave you with today. The first one is marketing through persuasion is dead and participation is here to stay. And the second one is data can be your friend in this process. It can actually power your strategy around participation. Thank you.